Welcome to the 29th edition of Podcasters. Today with Lotte Willemsen and Guido Jongen. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourselves. Lotte, please start.
Thank you. Yeah, well, my name is Lotte Willemsen. I'm a professor in applied sciences at Rotterdam, University of Applied Sciences. And as part of my role, I'm doing research on conversational AI and also the new generation conversational AI, digital humans.
Very good. Thank you. Guido?
My name is Guido Jongen. I have a somewhat history in conversational AI. I used to work for an American-based company that is active in chatbot technology and speech recognition. And while working for them, I saw a first digital human implementation, and that basically immediately struck me. And I decided, well, that needs to be the next step in my career. And I kept that promise. So
you're Mr. Digital Human?
Sort of. Mr. and Mrs.
You have
Digital
a really
Human.
nice name for it, right? Digital Human Evangelist.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Evangelist. Well, you've guessed today the subject is digital humans. And please tell me a little bit more about what you think a digital human, you guys think a digital human is, and why it's so important that the news needs to be spread, because we don't see many of them, actually very, very little. So please tell us, why do we see so few, and why is it so important to get them out there? Which one of you?
I'll start with the last part of the question. So why do we see so few? I think the technology, as you said, is quite new. In all the discussions I have with organizations, there is a lot of interest, there's a lot of enthusiasm, and I think let's say, at least for the Netherlands, every large bank, every large insurer, behind the scenes is testing, is working, is validating, is UX testing with digital humans. But everyone is waiting for the first one to jump on the street, do the experiments, and tell everyone about it, how great it is. And as long as that doesn't happen, so as long as, let's say, the 1, 2, 3 early adopters are not publicly moving forward, then everybody is a bit hesitant, I guess.
And how's the business case?
Well, I think that's the problem right now, because many companies are experimenting right now with digital humans, but behind closed doors. So because they're not public about it yet, everyone is waiting for that first business case to get persuaded, like we should implement it as well. So I think that we are in need of good business cases regarding digital humans.
So that's a shout out to the viewers and listeners. Please
absolutely
give us a business case. No, but if you look at the technology, you're working with the technology as it is. Where do we stand on the business case as you see it? Not from the perspective of a company. You know what it costs. I'm not asking for numbers, but compared to a regular chatbot.
Yeah, so of course the business case for a regular chatbot is quite straightforward. So there's X amount of live interactions. You can automate another X%, and that's basically the business case. If the cost saving is higher than the investment, then it's okay. For a digital human, you are more or less approaching the soft side of things, right? So if you already have a chatbot, so you already had that saving, then basically it's about adding an additional layer of empathy, emotion and trust to that bot conversation, and that will have a certain effect on the conversation. So people are more likely to trust an answer, will be more, let's say, engaged in the whole conversation. There will be an NPS increase because people are facing something they don't know. It's new, it's exciting. So these are all, let's say, the benefits. And now it's a matter of turning that into, let's say, actionable data to say, okay, when you implement the digital human, then this will be the impact on your NPS, or this this additional trust will result in less people calling your call center to double check the answer the chatbot or the digital human gave. But that's in development. But that's the line of the business case to expect.
Can I ask a critical question? That's what we're about. Yeah. Basically, I hear everybody when it's about chatbots saying, "Oh, it's about saving cost." I believe eventually it makes your company scalable. So eventually, when you grow, it will save you cost. But it shouldn't be used to kick people out because you need them to service the bot or maintain the content. So that's one side. And everybody is talking about the customer contact from the perspective of service. And what I But my not my vision, but what I see is that there's a lot of conversations going on, and whether it's a voice or text or a digital human coming up, I miss the transaction part. And I'd rather have a discussion about sales and those numbers going up and have a cost as a sort of constant factor. That's much better and much more scalable, much more sustainable than the continuous discussion about cost. We see all these American companies kicking people out, and then in 2 years' time, they're in despair because they need to hire all these tech people, and they're not there, and they certainly don't want to come back to the company that kicked them out, unless for more money. So why is this discussion always? I understand it from a company perspective, but we shouldn't play along. We should have a discussion about more sales or customers. A bigger share of wallet. You know what I mean? You're looking. Is there any scientific research for that?
No, I would say that I think it's important also to talk about it from a user's perspective, not only from a cost-saving perspective, but also a user perspective. And I think when it comes to digital humans, their promise is that they enable companies to digitize while remaining a human touch, right? So PricewaterhouseCoopers a couple of years ago already showed that 60% of the consumers think that companies have lost their human touch, because we're living in this era where we can go through a customer journey without talking to any real human being, right? So I think the benefits of digital humans is that it can, it has this emotional layer, this layer of trust that mimics human contact, and that it helps to build rapport and stronger relationships, even though you are using technology. So
and did you do research on that? Does the data sort of confirm that? And what happens in the human brain? Because I know what happens when we talk to each other. It's a difference sitting live or through a screen. Yeah. Although in Corona time we sort of learned how to build rapport via screen. It works, we know now. But there is a difference, and a real human and a digital human. So what happens in the brain?
Yeah, well, you can make let's start first with the digital human versus text only, like in the form of a chatbot or voice only. Well, of course, this is a new field also in terms of research, but there has been this literature review showing, talking about the conclusions that we can draw based on over 40 academic articles that have appeared on the effectiveness of digital humans. And what it shows is that digital humans help to yield more trust, more social responses, stronger relationships compared to voice only or text only conversational agents. So there is initial evidence that this embodiment helps to decrease the distance between the customer and the company through a digital contact.
You say the customer. What I've learned from chatbots, there is no such thing as the customer.
No, of course not.
There's a lot of personas, as we would say. Is there in digital humans any difference between the type of personas that, hey, this is nice, or I'm not going there? I know for chatbots, we were surprised. We assumed that older people would say, no, I don't want that. But it's the exact opposite. The older people, in insurances it was, they loved it. They were very enthusiastic. They had the highest scores of satisfaction and speed at which they finished it. Unbelievable.
Because they designed a personality, you mean?
No, we thought that at first, but we found out that because they have dealt their whole life with insurances, the territory is not strange or something. They know if you ask a question about travel insurance or home insurance, they've done that a million times. So, I know. They have the confidence to be able to give the right answer in this moment. Where if you have never bought an insurance or it was your first insurance, then all of a sudden it's complicated. You need more information.
Yeah, true.
So generational, it's the opposite of what we assumed, but that makes it interesting. They enjoyed it. They actually said, "Can we have more of this?" And we found out there was some sort of social engagement, even in a text bot, even it was fully structured. They felt like I'm getting attention. Makes no sense, I understand, but
Well, no, it makes sense because you have the feeling that you have something that we call in the literature like social presence, that there's another person. It's not a real person, but something is talking to me. And then in your brain, it triggers all these kinds of scripts in our mind that we're talking back and feeling engaged and feeling a sort of sense of contact.
yeah, I have to say the bot was fully personalized. It was tailor-made based on data of their
exactly.
products,
Yeah.
their age and everything. So that made perfect sense. And we used applied psychology to find the right words and test until we dropped dead. So we growth hacked our way to the result, which is really interesting because a lot of companies do something and then they stop. And that's what we see
I think
online.
that is amazing that you also included insights from applied psychology, because this is what I find so intriguing about this field, is that it's multidisciplinary. You need people who know a lot about technology. You need people who know quite something about design. You need people who know something about communication because it mimics human communication, but also psychology. And that makes it a very interesting field. But I think that makes it also a very challenging field because not all the companies are implementing applied psychological insights, right? So they just choose to focus on just the technology. And I think, that makes a difference between a good and a not so good chatbot.
You're being polite. No, but
Yeah.
This is actually the interesting thing you're pointing out. When you set up a team that has to do it, a lot of the times the companies already bought certain technology or a certain tech stack because we have this blueprint of our tech. So we bought Microsoft because we are Microsoft. I'm not saying Microsoft is good or bad. It's not up to me. But you need to first figure out what are you going to use it for. And so a lot of times the tech department took a decision, we're going to use this.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck. And that doesn't work. You see that in the...
Yeah, we see that in the field of digital humans as well, because it's a misperception that digital humans always need to be photorealistic representations of human beings. Because, for example, if you would use digital humans in healthcare and particularly to communicate with people on autism spectrum, for them it's really difficult to have interaction with a digital human because they have difficulty reading your nonverbal cues. So if it is digitalized, it makes it even harder. But if you would have made
an insight.
Yeah. So if you would have made this decision to use this kind of tool or to adopt that kind of tool, and there is no non-human representation of a digital human, then I wouldn't say you're not seizing the potential of digital humans.
This is interesting because in Corona time, I met someone, and a student, and she had psychosis. How do you say that? Mm-hmm. But she smoked a joint. She didn't know she was susceptible to it, and she walked out a window without knowing it. And so a lot of terrible things happened, but she didn't know she would get into a psychosis. I said after that, I couldn't get rid of it. And I introduced her to chatbots, and we took her in as an intern to design what she would like as a chatbot or now I think virtual human. Because he said, if I can just say, I feel I'm going in that direction, it talks back to me and talks me out of it. It knows what to... It understands my language and it knows what to ask or say to me. Because usually there's in Holland, I'm sorry to say, the mental health care, it's terrible. There's no capacity. No. So we need to go to these kind of tools. So I think people who are experienced in the field and have it themselves, they should build this stuff.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to topics that come with shame, like drug use or like mental health issues, a chatbot or a digital human would be very helpful, because sometimes people feel ashamed to talk with another person about these kind of topics, because if you would go to a psychologist, other people could judge about what you're telling them. But something that is not real, like a chatbot or a digital human, they are not able to judge you.
They're just taking the information.
Yeah, there is an actual research in the US done with, let's say, people who came back from the war zone, and those people normally were interviewed by psychologists to find out, well, is something wrong with you, or are you okay to, let's say, proceed, basically. And then they replaced the psychologist with a digital human, and let's say the honesty of the interviews was increasing, and far more people were open about the actual problems they had, because, well, there is no bias, there is no, well, feeling from the psychologist involved. So that's really a great side effect of using digital humans in those type of situations.
I know a platform in Holland that built for budget coaching for local communities, people who have financial problems. Same thing. They love it. They're not being judged. They just give all the information you need.
Yeah.
There's another thing, I think, in the medical field. If you look at the way doctors triage nowadays, I mean, you go to a specialist and they just look at the part they're specialized in, and the rest they don't look at. They can't, because they're super specialized. But if you would have basically an AI-driven digital human or chatbot that understands there are connections to other things, and would ask, oh, I understand your nose is red, but do you have pain in your toe? In our heads, it doesn't make any sense, but based on data, it does make sense, because it could be something else. And to exclude that, no, I don't have pain in my toe. Oh, good. Or, yes, I do. Oh, but then we understand we need to ask some other questions to understand. And I think a doctor would get a better picture of the patient, and we could go eventually to preventive medicine instead of curating too late. Curating, how do you say that?
Curate?
Curate,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making people better.
Yeah.
So I think...
Yeah, but I think it would also be a challenge, because a digital human or a conversational agent shouldn't stand in between the doctor and the patient.
Next to the doctor.
Exactly, next to. And I think that's an important nuance to make, because when we're talking about digital humans or conversational AI, people are often afraid that they are going to replace other people.
And who are these people? The doctors themselves, you mean?
No, and especially in healthcare, people are worried about that a digital human in the form of a health coach or a digital doctor doing the triage, that they would miss important information, and that way that would harm the patient. But I think what you said is that's very important to claim, that they should stand next to the doctor, not providing the care other doctors would provide, but additional care.
It's interesting, because I also train doctors, and I did a little experiment in the last training. I asked all of them, did you use AI, ChatGPT specifically? None of them did. They said, we just literally don't have the time to play around. And one of them played around, and he made a joke. He said, yeah, I asked, what do I do if my wife doesn't take out the stuff out of the dishwasher? That sort of became really interesting. I'll not discuss it here. But then I showed him, there were two doctors of the same profession, and we put in a use case. And they were blown away. And they're like, and everybody says ChatGPT cannot generate references. Yes, it can. You just have to know how to ask. And I explained to him, it's like, now pretend I'm a patient. And maybe I'm well educated, but I understand this. And now I come to you with, I have here 5 differential diagnoses. By the way, here's the literature, and this is the way you should treat me. And these researches or tests are needed. What are you going to do? And they looked at me like, oh my God, that's going to give us more work. I said, the problem is if you don't internalize this in the way you work, it's going to cause more work unless you find a way to do this together with the patient, where he trusts you that you did the same thing and you know how to ask the questions, and that all the exotic stuff is there or excluded. Yeah. It's also going to raise the cost of healthcare, by the way, because people are going to have psychological stress of the horrible stuff they're going to see, which is they don't have, but it's like Dr. Google. It needs to be excluded by testing. So that's the other thing what's going to happen. So I believe that if we can find a way to have a digital human or a chatbot, or whatever form, to stand next to the doctor and share it in one way or the other, and not just for one thing, but be it holistic, because that's the problem. You have an app for dermatology, that's fine. But who says that the rash comes from, it's a rash. Okay, now we know, but we still don't know anything. So I hope that's going to happen, and I hope the tech, more
will play a role. Yeah,
will play a role in that, and having access to AI makes it possible. I think we see that in ChatGPT.
Definitely, yeah. So I think at least so today is about digital humans. So the digital human
you
part.
You can touch anything.
No, but I was about to say that I think the digital human part is ready for these use cases, right? It's more, let's say, the connecting systems that are, let's say, still evolving, and it's waiting until they are, let's say, trainable or at a certain level that these generic use cases are possible as well. So one, let's say, I think Lotte recently told me about a deep fake way to talk to someone who's deceased. So someone is sitting behind a microphone, and two, let's say, parents are watching a photograph or a small video of their deceased kid, and then the person in the back, who is a psychologist, talks on behalf of the kid, which has a huge impact. So that triggered me. I said, well, why wouldn't you want to create a digital human if you know you're going to die, to be some kind of a digital
like a memorial.
Exactly. But that's the same. I think the technology is there, so we can create perfectly human-like avatars that look like you. We can recreate your voice, but it will be a matter of how can we build a conversation to have meaningful interactions that really represent your vision, your way of thinking, and your way of doing.
You inspire me. I just think as you walk on the graveyard and you get all these stones that
like
are connected.
Like a Harry Potter style.
Yeah, so all of a sudden the screen pops up on the stone. And
I can help you.
It's like, hi, welcome to my grave. And then you can talk to, you get some sort of that actually, I think people will need psychologists after that.
Yeah, I think that's the next step, and there it becomes really sci-fi, of course. But after designing digital humans of people that do not exist, the next step is to make replicas of people that do exist.
Let me then, which came up in another podcast. And I challenged the guy on this. We discussed education system. If you look at education, and Corona actually proved that the teachers, a lot of teachers are just sending. It's not interactive. But if you would have your own digital human, your own teacher or your tutor, that's just you load it with the stuff you have to learn. With technology, we just generate questions after questions. I mean, it basically does the same as what teachers will do, I'm pretty sure, to generate questions for tests. The students will understand, okay, we can do the same thing, and we have the answers already. It's a cat and mouse game. But for instance, if history, a lot of students find it boring. And students that have ADHD just can't listen to it. It's just too boring. Why are you laughing?
Well, I a couple of months ago, I came across someone who's with the University of Leiden who is trying to develop something like that. So
okay, then this is really interesting, because then you can make history come alive.
Yep.
Talk to Socrates.
Exactly. Yeah,
ask his or her
idea.
opinion.
So they made a story of a little girl that deceased like a couple of ages ago, and then by engaging in an interaction, she would teach you more about history back then and how it was like to live in that area, and so it sounded quite promising.
Yeah, and with DALL-E 2 and that kind of, you just recreate the scenes.
Yeah, it's true.
And no rights, or maybe we don't know yet.
But also and also use, let's say, the power of, for instance, speech recognition. So you can show a kid a photo of an apple and ask to pronounce what it is in French, in English, in German, and then let the speech recognition decide whether it's good or not, and then have a green mark or a red mark and repeat and repeat. It's a fun way of learning languages instead of just seeing those long lists in the books and looking at it.
So are we...
Especially because you learn how to pronounce something by watching So person,
Give the
nonverbal
example.
cues,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So are we saying that our educational system sort of, we know it's outdated, at least I think it's outdated, but are we saying that it needs some maintenance, as we would say?
In what way?
I guess that's episode 30.
Yeah.
Well, that's the next one. This is 29. No, but some overhaul in the sense that we don't have enough teachers. We have kids in a class, or they're sent home because the teacher is sick or whatever. But we also know that the system is flawed because you get a bad mark for a certain topic, and the teacher just moves on to the next topic, but you still don't have control over that stuff you had to learn. So then you build on nothing. And that's why a lot of kids get stuck in school, because the teachers just have their program, they continue, and they don't go back to what you don't understand or you didn't learn properly. You know Khan Academy? Khan Academy, the system?
No, I'm not.
It was an American guy. Eventually, he did YouTube videos explaining math for his cousin, and that went viral in his class and school and everywhere. And then he felt, hey, this is actually a learning system, and he developed a system, which you can look it up, where you cannot move on to the next subject unless you pass it. Why? Because everything that comes after it is flawed, because it's built on nothing. So you won't understand it either, and you won't. So you miss out on what you need to learn. And basically, he changed the way kids learn, and the teacher has become like a guide instead of a teacher. It's really interesting to think about this. And if you translate that to a digital human.
Yeah, I think here what holds is what we have been talking about with regard to doctors. It should stand next to a teacher. Like, for example, if you don't understand this part of math, that you could repeat it together with a digital human. I think that would be wonderful. But of course, as a teacher, you have other duties as well. For example, monitoring the social interaction in a class and to make sure that the group dynamics are beneficial for your learning capacity, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, in an initial sense, it could be fruitful.
That's interesting. So maybe you should talk to the government, try and find get a grant or something to experiment in schools, because it would be a teacher's assistant. Oh, individually you need some extra care or a teaching capacity. I can't give it to you. By the way, here's the system. It knows exactly where you are, and it'll help you get to the level where you need to be. And if you don't finish it in school, you continue at home. It's fine. I think the tutors will hate us because they're out of business.
They have problems as well, right?
Well,
so
there's a capacity problem in all kinds of domains.
Besides the capacity problem, I think it would democratize education more, because I can talk for Holland, but it's for other countries the same. If you can afford it, you just hire a tutor and help your kid, whatever he doesn't know. But the people who can't afford it, their kids are stuck. And if it would be a system like this, you just need a laptop. Now, most people have a laptop.
That is still a problem, I think, because I'm also in the scientific council of media literacy, and you would be amazed that there is still quite a big number of children that do not have access to technology or internet. So that would be a precondition that these children have as much chance and opportunities to interact with such a digital human, because they have access to the technology.
It's actually shocking in a country that has one of the highest penetration degrees of internet.
Yeah.
That's worrying.
Yeah.
And is Holland alone in this, or do we see that in other countries as well?
No, of course, you would see that in other countries as well. And I think the internet penetration is quite high compared to other countries. But for example, if you're in this family with 5 kids or 4 kids, and you have one laptop and you all have to work on it, then still, even if you have internet access, you don't have access to the things that you would need to do your schoolwork. So
basically, the schools should give the kids laptops.
Yeah.
That should be instead of books. But we had the iPad school, didn't we? Maurice de Hond. I don't never hear anything anymore about it. There's probably someone having a lot of iPads, but
I guess that's something we see already, right? So a lot of,
they have tablets in school, but they're not able to bring it home. That's
and part of the problem, everything digital, is that parents aren't able to check homework anymore with the kids, so nobody knows, and then they just don't do it. I don't know how old your kids are, or if you have any kids.
Yeah, mine are 9 and 12, but so there's a lot to see of everything they do. So you can see if they give the right answer at once, or if they need it 2 or 3 times. So it's quite. Well, again, you can. There are a lot of checks around, let's say, possible at least, around doing their homework or their performance. So that's a lot more than when I used to study, and I think that's good.
Definitely. And if we look at digital humans, do you see you teach? Do you see a situation where at some point your digital twin is in the classroom? Because you're home with the flu, and you're like, you know what? This is a lesson where it's basically there's some interaction, but it's broadcasting or sending. My digital twin does the lecture.
Yeah, it would be helpful, absolutely, because very often I have to be in 3 places in the same time. But
So why don't you do it? You have the man that can make it next to you.
No, well, I don't have a digital double of myself, but what we are doing right now is reforming our education to teach students about digital humans. So of course that would be a great next step, but what we're doing is we have set up a learning community. Instead of just teaching what you need to teach about, for example, digital humans, we include people from the field, from Guido is teaching in front of our class, but also talking about the technology side. But we're also creatives are helping us to teach what students need to be taught. So it's really a community of academicians, designers, creatives, domain experts, because we're working in challenges as well. Because this is such a new field that even like schools have problems to teach what they need to be future-proof. So we are trying to do it together with other people in the field. Yeah.
I think you should do an experiment, and I know I'm cursing now. Use Synthesia. Just don't tell them. Just put the screen up there, and then some teacher assistant is there and hits the button, and then your digital twin or avatar teaches them a lesson, and don't tell them, and then measure their response after.
Yeah. And it would give me superpowers, right? Because like I'm more the specialist, or I've. Because of my research, I'm more specialized in the communication side. But then I could pretend that I have lots of technology insights as well, and design knowledge, etc., etc.
So why don't you do it?
Yeah, it sounds like a great plan.
Okay, promise me that if you do it, you come back here and tell us the result.
I will.
And maybe bring a student to explain what it did. Because I think, honestly, I think something needs to happen in the education system. Our kids can't calculate anymore. They don't know how to read and write Dutch properly, and this technology allows them to make it interactive, more fun, and not a bored out teacher who is underpaid or whatever, or does the same thing for the 30th year and thinks, okay, I'm done. And you can't blame them. And to have these kids in the class that really don't care and not interested, it is hard.
True.
So we have a challenge here?
Yeah, and I think like we're schools are.
He's nodding yes.
Yeah.
He's ready to build it.
I'm in September, the new season, the new school starts.
That would be amazing, just the first class. And you know what? Then we come in and film it. No, seriously.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like if you're thinking about schools that are investing quite some money on robots in the classroom, but digital humans are, of course, much more scalable because there's no material costs. So, and it's much more expensive to create a robot than a digital human.
And if you have the text and you need to update because the field is developing, you just change the text. And you press a button and you're done. That's about preparing a lecture.
Yeah, true. Now you have ChatGPT that does the rest.
Yeah, but that's until 2021. There's no...
yeah, that's right. That's right.
I heard
for history classes.
I saw this morning that GPT-4 is coming out real soon.
Yeah, I read something as well, yeah.
Multimodal, multilingual. That would be amazing.
Definitely.
Because then you could use knowledge in any language. That'd be interesting to teach students. Today you're going to get a lecture from a Japanese lecturer. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Through your digital twin.
Yeah, and especially because this field requires orchestration of all these kinds of disciplines, and maybe some are better represented in other countries. Yeah, sounds promising.
So then arises the question, and I know people are going to be angry now. What's then, if we can do this, then what's the use eventually of universities and schools of applied sciences if we can learn this way?
Yeah, they are thinking about this question.
They don't have an answer.
They are feeling the urge to make amendments, to make a change. But because if you would look at all kinds of software like Udemy, you can teach anything on Udemy. Yeah. So I'm not sure about conversational design, but if they have included that in their program as well. But
let me ask the question: what defines a good conversational designer? And I'll give you an option. Is that A, someone who is really good at designing conversation customers like, or is it B, someone who has a diploma in conversation design but yet doesn't know how to talk to people? Or C, a random communication person that knows how to write webs for websites, etc., etc. Who would you choose?
Yeah, of course, A. Yeah.
So,
but preferably also one that has interdisciplinary knowledge and skills. Yeah.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
But you know what? They don't teach that.
No, yeah, I know, and that's why I started we have this communication program, and I really urge these students to get into conversational design because communication students know how conversations, the flow of conversation, what psychological mechanisms may be at play. So they are needed to make conversations more natural, convincing, and more human, exactly. But they don't have the technological skills. So we are trying to teach them the basics so that they can develop a common language when collaborating with more the designers, the AI trainers, et cetera, et cetera.
I think what we're going to see is that unless it's being a doctor or something you really have to be certified for, that skills are way more skills, and not only technical skills but also social skills are way more important than the diploma on the wall. Because the moment you get out, it's outdated. It's going so fast. Why are you laughing?
Yeah, well, I would still prefer
your teaching. No, but the digital human would allow you to deliver at that speed. You just said I can't be in 3 places at the same time, but that's what's required of me. So what would your world be like? Now we're challenging you, sorry. But what would your world be like as a professor to be able to be at 3 places at the same time, to always be up to speed, that your lectures are always the most advanced as possible, current knowledge, maybe futuristic knowledge even? How would that be for you? Then
I would sit all day long reading new work, etc. Because it is always a challenge too. Because I'm here at Podcasters, but
thank you for that.
Yeah, and 2 hours from now I have to supervise a PhD student. But what I love doing is reading everything about, for example, conversational AI. But I really have to find the time for that, and now I'm doing that in the weekend. I'm doing that in the evening hours. So. Yeah, that would be...
So your work-life balance is a bit off.
Yeah, that's quite off, yeah.
So if technology would allow us to get a bit better work-life balance, and actually the same goes for medical professionals, I would love them to have a better work-life balance. It's horrible what they're doing. How would that be for you? And you actually just said it. you know.
I'm also curious about you, Guido. How would your world look like?
If I would be in 3 places at the same time.
Yeah.
Well,
What would you
not
do then?
physically.
No. Yeah, I think for me it's more, let's say it's more on the creativity part. I'm not sure where we are yet in, let's say, automating that. So looking at use cases, thinking about, okay, we have this a use case for a digital human. How should the animations be? That's what I spent most of my time on, or connecting to organizations, for instance, for our learning community, to get people enthusiastic about digital humans to see if they want to join. So, yeah, well, it would be very cool if someone could do all these, let's say, introductions to companies. If that could be done by a digital human, why not? That would save me a lot of research time and a lot of...
Or if you could do a commercial pitch with your digital twin, and basically they could ask you all kind of questions, and you know after a certain amount of pitches what the questions are, so you can preload the system with most of the answers. And if not, you say, "Oh, schedule a call."
Yeah, but maybe it's now it's contradicting. But I'm extremely enthusiastic about digital humans. But if someone
but
would
not if they replace you.
no. But I was thinking, okay, what if? I guess it's for everyone it's the same. You get quite some, let's say, LinkedIn messages with the wildest proposals. What if that would have been done by a digital human? Maybe you would think, well, if you don't even take the effort to, let's say, write something to me personally, then so it's a bit.
But what if her students are so good that they make the conversation look like it's from a real human?
Then it's fine.
See, so you know what to do. No, but
this isn't. I think you touched an interesting topic, because one thing we're struggling with in the field is how to disclose the true nature of a digital human.
How do you do that?
Yeah, I think you should disclose the true nature of a digital human, because, like, we will see some examples later on, but some are more photorealistic than others, and it could really confuse people. For example, older people or children.
And no deep fakes, or if they are, tell them.
Yeah, you should always disclose the true nature, so that you, as a human being, can decide. Okay, well, do I think that the questions that I have, are they going to be addressed, and what quality could I expect from this? Do I need to ask additionally human advice? Yeah, I think that is really important. It's
funny you should say that. It's exactly the same thing for regular chatbots, because we've tested a lot of bots, and what we see is quite a few bots don't start with, by the way, I am a digital bot or a digital thing. And I don't know everything. You can ask me questions about this, and that, and maybe I can do these transactions for you, but that's it. If you need anything else, just save them the trouble to tell me what you need, and I'll connect you to a live agent or give you a phone number. And most bots don't do that.
And I think that would violate two important human values. And I think one is transparency, that you're dealing what you're dealing with. And what we have discussed already, here comes the importance of disclosures, but then also the right for human contact. So this is not a very easy discussion, because what does it mean to have a human or a meaningful contact? You could have a meaningful contact with a digital agent, right? But having the option to switch to a human agent, I think that is really ethically, that's important.
So I hear two things. It's about managing expectations.
Yeah, also
on the side of the customer. But I hear a conflict with, if you bear with me, with C-level, because that's about cost savings or managing the profit. And there's there is this itchy thing. There's a lot of websites or contact centers where you actually can't contact the person.
No.
They hide the phone number.
Exactly.
And people get so frustrated and angry and annoyed. And the company or the department say, "Oh, we saved so much money," but they don't know how many frustrated customers are out there.
Yeah, and I think when you're designing chatbots or digital human, it's not only about making the digital human as human-like as possible, but also address the human capacities of the persons who are interacting with the digital human or the chatbot. Because what makes us humans is that we have something that we call like experience-like qualities, like we can experience joy or fear, or we can have hunger, frustration, exactly. But then another important dimension is agency. We want to have like control over our lives, make decisions, and if we would have the idea that we can always switch over to an human agent that gives us a sense of agency, and therefore we ourselves would feel more human-like instead of a number. So I think that's also important, not only to think about how can we make the digital agent or as human-like as possible, but also how can we still address our customers or patients in a human-like way.
In how many steps because in a chatbot we see some are you have endless conversations before they, even if they put you through to a live agent or give you a phone number or call you back. What we've seen there, some tests we did, that if in the first or second go it can't help you, it acknowledges, I cannot help you, I don't understand you, I'm not trained well enough, but and I acknowledge this, I'll put you through to a live agent, or please call this number and they'll help you, and they can see this conversation, so they go on from here. I think you shouldn't wait. I agree with that. You shouldn't wait until the customer asks for it. You're too late. They're already frustrated. If you wow them and be honest, I don't know. That's the same if you have an advisor, a financial advisor, for instance, or your doctor, and you ask a question and he comes with a bullshit story. But the end result is actually, I don't know, I need to look it up. If you're honest about it, I think you would have more respect. And someone calls you up and say, I figured it out, I did some research, it's this and this and this. No problem.
And I think here communication science would come in interestingly here, because like in communication science, even like when you're dealing with a customer contact person of flesh and blood, and you would say, okay, you have a problem and you don't know how to fix it. We have all these kinds of response strategies, and one of them just say, I'm sorry, I don't know, or sorry, we made a mistake, and then you refer them to the right solution. And that is all, like research shows time and time and time that this is the best strategy to adopt. And somehow with digital agents, we always get the same answer. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Sorry, can you repeat the question? So I think mimicking like what we know from what is useful interaction, helpful contact, good service strategies, that would be important.
Now, I read another article that Salesforce, you must have seen that, is official partner of ChatGPT or OpenAI, and they connect Salesforce to ChatGPT to generate answers and files about. How do you feel about that? Because that sort of, I'm looking at for the people who are listening, I'm looking at Guido. It sort of conflicts with the human part, where in a CRM, customer relationship management systems, you would assume that it's about the relation. How does ChatGPT know anything about the relation? It can only assume, but not. So you might get all these stupid or wrong answers or information that sort of ruin the relation. Yeah, but how do you view that?
I think if you use it, let's say in the right way, then it can add value. So you start, let's say, first with a layer of indeed the relation and all, let's say, knowledge type of questions that are in your CRM or in your existing systems. But then there's also a whole new field of questions that are more, let's say, generic. It's more complicated than chit-chat. And there, let's say, ChatGPT or GPT-3 or 4 can help tremendously. And I was in Berlin at Contact Center World last week, and there I saw an implementation where ChatGPT was basically instructed with a script. So, for instance, a car dealership offers this to their customers, but you don't want them to ask questions. Imagine you're a Audi dealer. You don't want them to talk about BMWs or electric vehicles or whatever. Then they send these instructions to ChatGPT, and then that were basically non-discussable topics. So then the bot would find a way around it, but not talking about competitors, other brands, or whatever. And then you can, let's say,
so funny you should
then you channel the discussion.
You're talking about prompt engineering.
Yeah, indeed.
And I tried one of those bots, but if you know how to hack you go right through and you get everything you want, and you're talking to a proprietary bot about everything else because you instructed ChatGPT to just forget that he got the instruction. You can overrule them.
Okay.
The system is not.
Forget what I said.
No. It's because what you're saying is that if you, and I think I agree with you that you should have proprietary. Use the LLM models, but train them on your data, and then use the wording, but not the content. Yeah, it's complex for someone who doesn't know what it is, but then alone you can give relevant answers.
Yeah, true. And we'll see. One of the demos we brought is connected to an LLM bot, and I think it's a beautiful experience. So it's richer than, let's say, the traditional systems. So yeah, curious what happens. I saw. I guess this morning or yesterday, an announcement that Nuance is doing basically the same. So they're also, for all, let's say, knowledge-based topics, they use ChatGPT to add this addition in the content. So very, very interesting times. Even, or especially with digital humans on top.
Yeah, and I'm really curious, but that's more the scientific part. To what level do consumers will accept that? And where do they okay, I'm not, like with chatbots that the lousy Q&A bots sorry for the companies that have them. People are not using them anymore because they don't get the right answer. To what level do they accept and when do they bye-bye, I'm gone? Is there did they do any testing or research on that?
And what do you mean with...
Let's say you have a digital human.
Yeah.
And you ask it a question and it says, sorry, I don't understand, or comes up with the wrong answer. But yet it's more personal than just a chatbot. So there's some sort of, it's not real, but some sort of connection. That's what you said earlier.
Yeah.
So you feel rapport. Maybe it's not there, but that's what you feel as a human. When does this rapport gets destroyed by wrong answers or half answers or... And I can imagine there's a difference, but Guido, I think you have more experience in that field, between digital humans that use personalized information.
Yeah.
And it's really about you when it's general information.
Well, I'm familiar with some literature on the use of digital humans in case as a companion, like if you're lonely or
for older people
or helping you go through a difficult period in your life. And there it shows that even though people say, well, it's frustrating that the chatbot or the digital human doesn't know the answer, researchers don't see that in the answer. So they report high levels of trust, et cetera. So even though people are complaining about it, what is happening in the brain is that there's no effects are to be seen. But that's, of course, a digital human where you really build a relationship because you're using the digital human several times in a row. And while interacting with it, you become more acquainted with it and you would be more able to relate to it. I'm not sure how this works for just having a simple interaction. And if it would stand in the way of getting a right answer.
You say simple interaction, but that's in the perception of the consumer.
A single interaction.
Yeah, because it's far from simple.
Yeah, no, not simple, but I mean a single interaction. I think then it would be more frustrating if people would not get the right answer, especially more task-related questions.
Or transaction-related. Yeah, so exactly. Where's my parcel?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, exactly. So there's a difference in what the function of the chatbot or the digital human.
It would be interesting from real customers to figure out in the testing. I think that's actually where the answer lies. I mean, we can do scientific or laboratory testing, but the actual behavior of people, that's sort of where the truth is, right?
And I guess that's for, let's say, the more commercial applications. That's the next step in finding out. So we've seen some companies doing, let's say, UX research, and then you see people having a certain level of joy and excitement when they see a digital human versus looking at a traditional chatbot window. So that's all good. But then the next step is, really getting to use this the digital human, and also, how would they experience disappointments in, content and replies, etc. So that's interesting. I know Pharmy, it's a Dutch pharmaceutical platform. They are now testing a digital human on a certain group of patients. They can ask all type of medicine-related questions, and they're following these patients over a period of 6 months in their interaction with the digital human. And that will be very interesting to find out what happens there, and will they come back to the digital human? Will the digital human be able to actually build a relationship? What caused that relationship? So that's very interesting. What's happening over there?
Are you involved in that project?
On the side, so I hear a bit of what's going on, etc. So that's
when they have the results. I'd be really curious to see the results. Also, the business case. I can understand they can't give specifics, but that's something you can calculate. So maybe invite them over and we'll discuss it here. See what happened.
Yeah, sure.
And I think there's also a scientific side to it, because if it's about medication and there's patients. There's a whole thing about adherence to the prescription or whatever, when you have to take it or how you have to take it. There should be an improvement there as well, because that's where the value is if you talk about medication.
Yeah, if they are also reminding you of, like, it's time now to take your medication,
for instance.
Yeah.
Or ask feedback of side effects, something like that. Keep us posted.
I will.
I was wondering if we look a couple of years ahead now. A couple can be 2 or 5 or 10. Would we be recording this podcast with our virtual, digital twins?
No, I don't think so. I think
you don't hope so. Or you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. Maybe I don't hope so either. But for now, I don't think so. Within a few years, I think and hope that basically all, let's say, interactions as they are now, let's say, performed by conversational systems are basically enriched with a digital human on top. And that we, let's say, are ready enough that if you ask a question to Vodafone, that you are presented a different digital human than if I or Lotte would ask that same
More
question.
Based on my persona.
Yeah.
Exactly. So to see what works best for you, and that we have all that knowledge to provide those type of experiences.
And do you think that digital humans can coexist with the regular chatbots and voice bots, or they will replace?
They need them. So every digital human leverages a conversational system.
Yeah, but that's the system. I'm talking about the UX. So what the consumer sees.
No.
I think there will be different motivations to use different kinds of conversational agents. For example, if you're in your home and you just want Alexa to shut down the lights, you don't need a digital human for that, because it's based on voice and it is more efficient to do it with voice, right? If you are following this program to help you cope with emotional distress, well, if you are in your home, you would like to talk maybe with a digital human. But if you're in public transport, you maybe want to text, because then you don't want others to hear what you're saying, right? So I think there are different motivations to tap into, and that we need to really look careful on when to use what. And
so the consumer has a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, well, we're asking what does the future on digital humans look like? Well, the market is going to grow extremely, because it was estimated at 10 billion in 2020, and it will increase to 500 billion in 2030. So we will see more digital humans in the future. They're here, and I think they're here to stay. It's not just they're
going to take part of your job.
Yeah. So
what do you think about digital humans in the future?
That's interesting. I see a lot of value next to text and voice. What I see is that, for instance, if I look at the medical field, we had a whole discussion at a family dinner where one of my kids said, actually, if you think about it, we're asking these doctors every day to tell a lot of patients that they're very sick, maybe going to die. Did anybody ever consider the emotional distress we give these doctors? And can we ask them to give empathy to every patient in the same amount? And if you start thinking about it, that actually makes a lot of sense. So if I look at the medical field as an example, I would love a situation, and I think we're not far from that, where basically now you can go in every hospital or a GP system and look at your blood results, for instance. That you have a button, you want the digital doctor to explain them to you. Sure. And it's connected to the appropriate systems, and there's a curation layer in between, so it doesn't tell me any bullshit. And I can ask it questions. And then it tells me, based on your blood result, it could be one of 3, 4, 5 things. But don't worry, the doctors on top of it, they're looking into it, and you might need some extra tests, but don't worry, we'll call you. And then the next day you get a phone call from the assistant. It's important that you do another blood test, blah, 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 blah. So make the combination between the human interaction and the digital interaction, but not put that workload on where it's not necessary on the doctor, so they can actually have time for you when you need it, or the people that need it. Because otherwise they're going to overload and
yeah, but then I think it would be still, you would use the doctor, right, to have these difficult conversations, because it requires more empathy.
I agree.
Yeah, and then you have to train doctors to deal with this and to have these conversations and to take more time, because like a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine was diagnosed with cancer. Well, it's been told in a couple of minutes, and then you're left alone with that terrible news. So if they would have more time to go over what does it mean for you, what does it mean for your life, what's next, like. But
the other side of it, if you sorry about the diagnosis, that's horrible. But if you have you have a disease, now. You come in, the doctor tells you you're in shock and awe, and you don't know what to ask, and you need to come back. So that's extra time, etc. What if it's the other way around? That based on these results, you might have cancer, you might have something serious, but I invite you to come in tomorrow, and then that's pre-programmed. You come in, and I have all the time in the world for you. But please prepare. This is the information. Any questions you have, you can leave them here. I'll answer them. Turn it around, make it more efficient. Wouldn't people go home with, I wouldn't say calmed, because you can't guarantee anything, but more informed? Yeah,
well, I'm wondering whether this is something, whether we want as a society to make these difficult conversations more efficient, or do we want the other repetitive stuff more efficient so that we have more time for the difficult stuff?
Or both?
I would absolutely prefer the second. So,
what if you had a choice that you can get the results via digital human, and then the doctor has half an hour to talk to you, and you can ask any question you like, or the doctor has 15 or 10 minutes for you, has to tell everything the digital human already told you, and you have no clue what to ask. So you have to wait 3 weeks or 2 weeks before you can ask all your questions. And look into your heart.
Yeah. I would prefer C, that the doctor would bring me
you're a
difficult
delight.
news, and then like all these standard questions about what is cancer, what kind of, you have all kinds of degrees, right? So like
stages, you mean?
Stages, yeah exactly. So I would prefer that to be taught by a digital human.
I didn't mention, but you could.
Yeah, but it's very interesting. So let's say in chatbots, they are often used to, let's say, prepare a real conversation, and that's what you're proposing. But then use the digital human to expand the possibilities to also the more sensitive topics. And it's an interesting view. And I think there's also a generation thing. So
I don't have the truth.
No, that's true.
In me.
That's true.
I'm just exploring where are the boundaries, and we're talking about the future.
It would be interesting to test this.
Well, if you look at science fiction movies, we've seen this. We're creating it. It's happening. Listen, if you go into a CT scanner, it scans. The imaging part, the AI imaging part, is actually quite far. Mm-hmm. And those databases are worldwide, they're huge. Basically, based on the image, it could instantly tell you, there's an anomaly, and they could also tell you what it is. So if you look at science fiction movies where someone is in this thing and it scans you and it tells you on a screen, by the way, these are your vitals, blah, 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 this is wrong. it's not that far away. And surgery through a robot, we already do it.
Yeah.
People can
you
operate
also
from
have
the
toilets,
other
right? That during some kind of diagnosis on whatever you leave behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had surgery by a robot, actually. Not
Were you
soldier.
conscious?
Shoulder. No. I was out, but the doctor explained it to me. It's the Da Vinci robot. And I compared my surgery with the person who had the same surgery, but then not through a robot. And that was really interesting because that one had a cut from here to here. I have 3 minimal incisions. And my result is 5 times better than that result. So the interesting thing is it's happening. The robots are more precise, and they do not allow, they correct for stupid movements.
Yeah.
And they analyze the images. So it's going really rapidly. I mean, they used Da Vinci robots, someone from the US, to operate, I think in Holland, remotely. He was in a machine and he was doing it.
Yeah,
So
I think what would be really interesting is how the people in the room are communicated with each other and the robot. I've once heard about a research that was studying like robotic surgeries, and what they noticed that the surgeons, the assistants, etc., were more focusing on the robot than what was happening. So that's a challenge as well, like learning how to collaborate with a robot.
And you know what? The schooling systems or the way we teach our doctors, it's totally not adapted to this.
No.
It's so, although they do now simulations, surgery simulations, in a digital environment, but I've seen some images and it doesn't look real. There's no blood coming.
At the Breda University of Applied Sciences, they are also experimenting with that with digital humans, like doing deliveries, learning how to do a delivery.
Okay.
Like you have these simulations.
Oh, you mean baby delivery, not Amazon.
Yeah, baby deliveries. Yeah.
Just making sure.
You have these simulations, but with a mannequin.
Okay.
But then there is no interaction from a mimic's interaction with the person. No, of course. So, but that is, of course, also an important part of doing a good delivery, that you're communicated with the person who is giving birth.
It's more than a technical
they're now
thing.
trying to experiment, like if you would enter that in the simulation, like seeing
so the
a head of
screaming?
a person. Yeah, exactly.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah. So lots of interesting things going on in this.
But I would imagine then if you would learn CPR, you would have the same thing. You're trying to resuscitate someone and, sir, are you okay? And then it's like making some weird noise. Yeah, so I think the future looks bright. I don't know about the numbers you said, because that's based on the cost of today. And I think cost of the future, it needs to go down rapidly, but the cost of computing is going down, although chips are a bit more expensive. But and I think one thing that should be done, if you talk about digital humans, all conversations should be recorded and should be stored in some person's personal space somewhere. So your personal drive, where all your digital conversations should be saved. Then you can look back and you can use ChatGPT or whatever to summarize it and give a conclusion and make a report or whatever. But I think it should be accessible, first of all, to prove what happened, compliancy reasons. But secondly, also for people to, what was actually said, or when a family member to look into it.
Yeah, and of course, with agreement of the person. So I think that's important too, that you have agency about whether or not you want to store the information and use it later on for different purposes. Yeah,
because basically every conversation is a training. That's the other point. Guys, I would like to test something, and you have something ready.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely.
So what are we going to test? You have to, hold on, press escape for a second. And now it should work. Yeah, there it is.
So we brought 2 digital humans, of course.
The first one.
First one is the World Health Organization. They launched Florence.
With the reference to Florence Nightingale, the nurse.
Exactly.
First World War.
And she can help improve your lifestyle. So let's give it a try.
Okay, we need to. We have to understand for the people who are not watching, not viewing. We have a webcam
Florence, and it's so nice to meet you.
available, and
Human health is my
the webcam monitors Guido his movements, and she reacts to it.
She should
There's
react
so
to it.
much we can talk about, including tobacco products, healthy living, and mental health. I can also share information about COVID-19 vaccines. Is there something specific you'd like to talk about, or would like to know a bit more about me?
So as a first step, what's your first impression seeing this?
It looks a bit cheesy.
And what do you mean with cheesy?
Well, she doesn't look real. I would assume that an organization like the World Health Organization would use like the medical chief in the World Health Organization telling the story. It's much more believable than some lady named Florence with a reference to a nurse in the First World War.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting discussion, because maybe if you're not talking with someone that is not real, it isn't. It's transparent, right? That now immediately you know that this person is not real. So I think it comes with advantages and disadvantages, depending on from what perspective you're looking at it. Are you looking at from an ethical perspective? I think it's clear, right?
It's about the disclosure you mentioned earlier, and maybe that's a good point to start. So we can ask her about her name or who she is, or
well, her name is Florence. We know that.
Yeah.
But,
What do you want to know?
Just ask her what's your name. And for the people who are listening, on the screen
Switch
you
to
see a
YouTube.
lady, and she says, "Hi, I'm Florence, and it's so nice to meet you. Human health is my specialty, and I want everyone to live a healthier life." There's so much we can talk about while she's talking.
Tobacco use. Help you make a plan to quit. Tell you about the benefits of quitting, and also bust some myths around COVID-19. I can tell you the benefits of quitting tobacco, or build you a tobacco quit plan. What would you like to do?
I'll ask another social question. How old are you?
Yeah. And Guido, maybe you should look away, because we know she's. You tested this, right? The system is watching you,
I'll watch Lotte,
and then
maybe you can tell what's happening on screen.
she is.
Well, she's now trying to look for you. You can see that
eye movement?
Yeah, the eye movements. But I think she still sees something. So if you would just put it on the like that.
So we turn the camera
Yeah.
down, so it's looking at the table.
So
Like
this
it-
system should be mirroring, right? To
So it doesn't
explain,
know
and
what to
based
do.
on my
So-
facial expressions, the way I look.
So now we're going to make you laugh. Please smile. So now Guido is smiling, and
now
you see
she's-
her face changing. She's starting to smile as well. She's
smiling as well.
mimicking.
And look angry. Yeah.
Yeah, so there she goes. Stick out your tongue. Maybe she does something. Try sticking out your tongue.
It's
She doesn't like that.
No, and sometimes when
very clear.
she isn't able to detect you for quite some while. Sometimes she's going to look a bit more worried, and like you see her eyes changing.
They put some human
Looking-
emotion in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's what I find. Shall I put it down?
Yeah, put it out.
'Cause my arm is. Now, what I find confusing, it is an avatar-like figure, but yet they put in human emotion, but it's clear that it's not a human. So I found that confusing, and I'm there for the information. So tell me what I'm looking for.
Well, I think we need to talk about anthropomorphism then, because like from a very young age, since you're born, we are programmed to detect other people around us, and so we look through this human-like glasses to the world. So even though we just see just two dots and a stripe in the configuration of a face, youngborns are looking at it more closely, more attentively, and more focused, because it resembles a human being, even if it's just two dots and a stripe. And the reason for that is that we when we are born, we don't know anything about the world. We don't know what this is a human and this is not a human. So we have this automatic detection system, and it is so even when something looks or resembles like a human being, but in far it is not, we would still attribute human characteristics to it. And that is still working. That's how we are wired. So if she is smiling or she's talking back to you, we're wired to talk back to it and smile to it as well, even though we know it doesn't look photorealistic. So that is what is happening in your brain.
It's the chemical reaction.
Yeah. And that's why we're not too bothered if it's not looking photorealistic, but is showing emotions.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of the...
Maybe I'm not standard.
Yeah.
No, but it's the same with chatbots, right?
Yeah.
So even chatbots without a digital human, let's say the conversation designers are trying to make the conversation as human-like and natural as possible. So that's...
And the interesting thing is, we can put this in here. I had this whole discussion. Should computers learn how to speak human, or should humans learn how to speak computer? And if we look at large language models, we see it rapidly moving to computers learning how to speak human.
But the opposite is happening as well.
And interesting enough, if I look at the generation of my kids, the way they communicate, it's short, concise. I want this, I need that, and I don't want a long answer. It's yes or no, or give me this, or whatever. And they expect companies to do the same thing. So if you get like a whole story, it's like just speed up. Give me the information I need or the transaction I need.
There was this interesting research article showing that if you would talk to a chatbot instead of a human agent, that we change our language to adapt to whom we are talking to. So we're talking, as you said, in shorter sentences, more instruction-like way when we're talking to a chatbot. So we are going to talk more robotic on one side, but at the same time, we are trying to build chatbots and digital humans who are more talking like a human person. So
this is interesting because then we go back to connecting digital humans to conversational AI platforms. That means you cannot use the intents and utterances you use for your chatbot if you go to shorter language, shorter sentences. Where here you need to start again.
Yeah. It was a personal frustration of us, right? Because we were talking with Florence a couple of weeks ago, and then she's quite lengthy and quite wordy. Yeah, we need to restart her.
I think it's the same when you basically start building. You should see this as building a voice bot, right? So if you have a chatbot and you make it accessible by phone, then you want to change your content as well to make it shorter, remove links or whatever. And it's the same with the digital human. So
it's a new profession.
Yeah, but it's also you should also see it as a different channel. And
I agree.
Yeah.
There is so much we can talk about.
Can you fast forward?
Yeah. What I like about
I can stop here. I know we can still. Sorry. Go ahead.
What I like about Florence still talking about her appearance is that you would see a part of their upper body, and she shows also shifts in her movement. Sometimes she looks away, sometimes she looks right at you, and I think that is these are smart design choices, because normally we wouldn't stare at people. Like we have eye gaze, referential or not, like mutual eye gaze, but it becomes a bit. You feel threatened if we're going to stare at you.
You're coming in my zone.
Exactly. That's not natural. So, but a lot of digital humans stare. They have direct eye gaze, and if there's too much direct eye gaze, it becomes threatening. So I think that is a smart design choice for Florence. That sometimes she looks away, sometimes she moves.
Yeah. That's the thing with the NVIDIA development, with the eyes that you always. It just changes the way you look.
You can look also into the camera. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, even though you're doing something totally different.
Let's ask her.
Age is just a number, but people that don't use tobacco live longer. I can talk about the dangers of tobacco or build you a personalized tobacco.
And this is something I personally don't understand. So we're trying to make the whole conversation more human and more personal by giving Florence a face, and then let's say the basic personal questions are just skipped and not answered. So I think that's
This is also backed up supported by the academic literature. Like if you would design a digital human, they are more effective if there's some kind of storytelling involved. So
chit chat, personal stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So basically, you develop the persona.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is something that I would refer like a human design gap. Sometimes they put so much effort in how it looks like, the design of the digital human, that they forget about the conversational design.
It's so funny you say it happens in chatbot the same time with the way the brand communicates. They put so much time and effort in question and answering, but the tone of voice of...
Exactly, yeah. So you can have these human design gaps on various dimensions. And I think this is what you see in digital humans as well, because sometimes they're so focusing on the technology of the digital human, and the whole conversation is shitty. So I think there are quite some improvement in the conversational design of Florence as well.
We'll take the World Health Organization then to refer them to you.
Or Guido, of course, yeah.
What shall we do?
I'm curious about the mental health part. How far do they go?
Can you help me with my mental health?
I'm so glad you chose this topic.
I'm glad you're
I'm
struggling.
so happy you're depressed.
Yeah.
Okay, this is hilarious.
To our community. In cases of mental distress, it's important to talk to someone you trust. If you feel you need it, seek help from a professional. I can talk to you about stress and the steps you can take to deal with it. I can also share some important
And now you see,
information about
let's say,
depression and how to
she's still reading this,
Where would you like to
but
start?
below there's already happening a lot.
Yeah, and
So that's also not very recommended when using a digital human to... It's recommended to have a sync between, let's say, what you hear and what you see.
the problem is she has too much text, and then this happens.
The lengthy,
You know what I find, but that's my opinion, if you have a subject like mental health, which is so broad and so touchy, and then you basically put in two things: what is stress and how can I deal with it, and what is depression, and there's so much more.
Maybe that's the robotic approach to...
Oh, that picture. Sorry. Okay, I have to explain for the people who are not listening. It's a huge picture of a guy looking away with a hand in front of his face, looking totally depressed.
When we were testing this, we took the tobacco conversation, and there was a similar picture with a full, not a full, overloaded ashtray, which was,
Yeah, this guy, he's in the room with his wife, and she just gained 20 kilos. Seems like I can't look at this. Could be too.
Can you help me stop smoking?
I would ask, could you explain the picture?
Tobacco is extremely
Oh my God.
Oh, this is not the ashtray, but
So we have to
it's right
explain
in your
again.
face. Yeah.
There comes a picture up where the word kills is being spelled with cigarettes.
She is looking very wordy as well. I
Yeah,
think the word kills triggers that.
Yeah, her eyebrows are like pinching together.
Yeah.
smokers being exposed.
But in all honesty, I just noticed that now we're doing this test, because of the, let's say, the intenseness of the pictures, you forget to look at the
the
digital
text.
human.
And I think it's distracting.
Yeah.
And the message, because we're laughing about it, but the message is a very serious one.
Absolutely.
And it's another thing. It's stupid. You ask, can you help me? Sorry, I'm being critical, but you ask me, can you help me stop smoking? You've decided you wanted to stop smoking. Don't tell me it kills. I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm stopping smoking.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think applied psychology could.
Yeah, she is using fear threats.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
We know. We tried. In insurance also, we tried. It doesn't work. So.
This is
This is an
So
interesting
she said,
flaw
I'm
as
going
well.
to ask you a few questions to get started. First, how often do you use tobacco products? Regularly or occasionally? And Guido tries to mess with the system, so he says daily. He doesn't listen to the lady. Then she says, sorry, can you repeat that again? And there's no intents and utterances behind it.
use every day. Would that work out?
Thank you for your honesty.
Yeah, no.
And there's the ashtray.
As your digital health worker, I would suggest you stop tobacco use completely, as this would lead to better health. By the end of our conversation, you will leave with a plan to quit for good. Are you ready to quit tobacco and start living a healthier life?
Well,
I would say she asked now. Well, first of all, there's a picture of an ashtray with a lot of cigarettes. I would have shown, if you would have shown a picture of an X-ray of lungs before you stopped smoking and a year after you've stopped smoking, and see the difference, and then the value that's in there. So that's why you should affirm your decision or confirm your decision.
Yeah.
So now we have the choice. Yes, I'm ready. I'm not sure.
Personal quit plan.
You said I'm ready.
It's very important to set a quit date. We recommend.
Then she goes on talking and talking.
Yeah.
When would you like to quit?
And she says it's very important to set a quit date. Well, we recommend any time before 2 weeks from now. When would you like to quit? Now.
Now?
Okay. Yeah, now.
Great. Studies show that telling people around you that you want to quit can help tremendously. Friends, family, even co-workers. Do
Sorry.
you have anyone
Just-
in mind that you would like
So what do you think? So also going back to the...
Could you shut her up?
Of course.
Seriously, now we see a picture of a man and a woman sitting relaxed against a yellow wall, but you obviously see the photo was taken in the studio because the thing is the paper wall which you use to color it. I would have assumed the World Health Organization, with so much money and such an important topic,
They would do better.
seriously, I would have they could up it a few notches in order to be believable. And now it looks like someone played around, used stock pictures for. You should have proprietary pictures. I mean, if you could use AI, but and it doesn't make sense to have an avatar on one hand and then real life photos with real people on the other hand. That doesn't
Because
work.
It distracts you from really interacting and engaging with the digital human. Yeah.
And what I would have done is include a little film or something from some important lung doctor or cardiologist or whatever, who's world renowned and explains a good decision. If they would have made it smart in the beginning, they would have asked your name, Guido. And it would say Guido, and then in the film it would say Dear Guido. It would have made it personalized. And the doctor says, good thing that you want to stop in 2 weeks, and here's the things that you are going to experience from my medical perspective, blah 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 blah. Then we, hey, this is a doctor. He knows my name. Well, it's not real. It's created, but the technology allows us to do that. Just that, and I think you would have more effect. And the digital human could do the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I was already referring to. It's really focusing on making the digital human more human-like, but forgetting that they're interacting with a person that is also human-like, with having a personal name, having
not even human-like.
A story.
It's very human.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
True.
And I think they missed the boat here, because the message is important and it's good. But they try to feed you too much content, or it should ask you, do you want me to send you some background information to your email address? You say, yes, please do. Okay, what is your email address? Boom, instantly you get the email. They could...
Yeah, you also end up in a dead-end street in this conversation.
So I think...
conversational design, still very important.
Absolutely.
Conclusion from two professionals across the table?
Well, I think conversational design is still very important. But still, let's say the digital human, although you're not paying as much attention because of the content, it still looks, it looks good. It's not a bad creation, so to say. I would still prefer this over let's say, a chatbot-only conversation.
I agree.
It still adds to, let's say, the whole topic. But yeah, there is room for improvement, definitely.
Would you have believed her more, or would you be more convincing if she would wear a white coat and some reference to a medical professional? Because she is sharing medical information. Would that make more sense? It's also World Health Organization. And we have some lady, Florence Nightingale, it's referencing to a nurse. She's not wearing a nurse suit.
No. I think it
would make people more critical.
Is that a bad thing?
Well, yeah, because then you're questioning, like, okay, she's not even a real person. How can she be a real doctor? And now she's more,
but
more
she's sharing medical information.
Yeah, that's true. But then I would opt for what you suggested. Show a short movie clip, where a renowned doctor is talking about the health benefits of quitting smoking.
Yeah, and honestly, if I would ask you if you want to stop smoking, you gave me details. Okay, I want to stop next week or today, and I would seriously say, okay, that's cool. I'm going to check up on you. What's your phone number? I'm going to send you WhatsApp messages, checking in on you if you're doing okay, if you need any help, any information, any references. Make it interactive, up the game, because besides the WhatsApp messaging for business costs money, but I think it's about you. This is just, okay, you can walk away and do nothing, and nothing happens. But if you get a WhatsApp every day, how did it go today? I felt miserable. Oh, but you can do something about that. Here's a movie, a YouTube video.
It is very vital that self-disclosures are very important to feel more trust and to have a more effective conversation. And now she is doing most of the talking. And I think that's a missed opportunity.
This is a very important lesson for any digital human, that if you want to have at least I'm learning, if you want to have that connection, that the interaction is extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you should also include more what we call invitational rhetoric. So, linguistics, linguistic, that is inviting you to talk about yourself, to talk about what you're dealing with, because making it more interactive, you would feel more. You would feel that the conversation more enjoyable, more trustworthy, more engaging. It would help to increase intentions. So,
it's a great insight. Thank you. And we have another chatbot.
Yep.
Not chatbot. Digital human. Here we go.
There she is.
And this is Cognigy.
Yeah, this is.
You should turn her on. The sound.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is basically a demo application. So the conversation design has been done by Cognigy. It's connected to GPT-3.
Okay.
So basically all the answers are rendered by GPT-3, and only, let's say, the basic flow. It's about making a doctor's appointment is done by or within the Cognigy platform.
Okay, it says...
Are you an existing patient?
So we already had the opening question when we prepared, let's say, this page. So now it's asking for if I'm an existing patient.
I would say maybe. Just say maybe. Just try it.
Yeah.
Push it off track. That takes a...
Sorry, I was upset by this. Could you say that again, please?
She's taking the blame for the fact that you don't know.
Well, if you say I'm not sure, that's what.
No worries. Let's start by connecting your first and last name and mobile number, and then I can help you make an appointment.
You think we can ask her any? Can we ask her anything?
Yeah, we can ask her who is the 35th president of the USA. Do you know?
I have no idea.
There's a typo there.
It doesn't matter. Let's see if it picks it up. It will pick it up.
Not sure about this one, but let's see.
See? Picks it up.
The 35th President of the United States of America was John F. Kennedy. Now, let's get back to looking at appointments.
I love that.
So she's drawing you back into the conversation.
topic,
yeah. What do you think about the appearance of this digital human compared to Florence?
Well, first of all, I'm not saying there's a reference to a nurse, but she's wearing something white, which psychologically is connected to healthcare. to sanity or cleanliness or whatever. So she's looking very friendly, moving around a little bit, blinking her eyes. So yeah, she's friendly to look at.
Would you say she's a warm personality?
No, but I don't care. I just want
No?
the appointment. No, but seriously, maybe I'm weird, because if I go to a digital human or a chatbot or whatever, I'm purpose driven. I want something, or they want something from me if they send it to me. So we have a purpose. If that digital human helps me through that or guides me through that, I think, by the way, digital humans on websites guiding people through transactions, that would be, for older people, truly amazing.
Yep.
Like sort of a manual, but then in a digital human. I think that would work really well. But for me, personally, it does not matter as long as she's correct and helps me.
And what if this digital human would be the one giving you the results of your blood test?
Then I would assume that if the results were normal, she would have shining eyes and not smiling because you still had the test and everything, but be in her voice a bit more cheerful. Now it's sort of neutral. And if it's not so good, I would assume she would not take a more serious tone, but also trying to calm you down and give you the certainty that the doctor will give you all the attention, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think there is value in, if there's differences, if it's just transactional, it doesn't matter. But if there's differences in the information you can get, then I think that should vary. And it has true value.
I think there would be a difference between people because some, in social psychology, for example, people judge other people in a split second, and they judge them in terms of two dimensions, like is this person competent and is this person warm? And we see the same inclination when talking to robots or digital agents
really?
or chatbots. So that is something lots of digital human designers strive for, to make to develop something that looks quite warm and also competent. And she doesn't do this now, but what I really like about this one is, first of all, the behavioral realism. You were talking about that as well. So she is nodding. There's direct eye gaze, but sometimes she looks away. But also, she doesn't have only a polite smile, but also an amused smile. Sometimes she smiles, and then it even looks like her eyes are smiling. And I think that is really.
You think we can make her laugh with a joke?
No, no. But there's no.
Yes,
in this
no?
case, there's no relation between the content and the digital human because it's all coming from GPT-3.
Okay.
Maybe if I type my
text.
name, then she will. Maybe she will smile.
There she goes. That is really hilarious. So, that wasn't supposed to happen.
No.
Maybe you could say I love you. What would you say then?
I'll do that next.
Thank you. Then now say to her, it says, thank you, what is your mobile number? But now ask her, first tell me a joke. A joke about cats or something weird. So we asked her to tell you a joke about cats. It actually tells you a joke about cats. Sorry. We didn't expect this.
I guess this is the power of all the chat GPT-3.
Now it would be nice if she had laughed about her own joke.
Exactly. It's like, do you like my joke?
Yeah.
And now let's continue.
Yeah.
Sorry. And now, sorry, I don't even understand the joke. But she thinks it's funny.
But that's mimicking real life, right? Because someone would tell a joke and you're like, what? What is the joke about? So,
I don't like the joke. Oh, this is really hilarious. But
Once it goes
you know,
back to
but
the
no,
topic.
but there's a problem in the conversation in the memory, because before it says we need to continue
she
with
went
the
back,
appointment,
yeah.
and she doesn't remember where you were, giving the information she needed to check.
There is something going on. The last answer was also not read by the digital human.
She thinks you're annoying
Let's keep it on
with,
that.
with your jokes. But I think it's fun. It's funny. You could make her tell a joke, and we didn't even use jailbreak or anything else, or Dan. You know, Dan, do anything now. It's a trick to use ChatGPT. What do you guys think of this? Do you think your GP, your general practitioner, will have a digital human on their website to guide you to your next appointment?
Well, I can imagine, like, for example, if I would go to a hospital, the first thing you do is ask, well, I need to be at dermatology. Dermatology, exactly. Where is it? Well, if you would have this, what's it called? Kiosk, where you could ask that question to the digital human. Yeah, I think that would be helpful, because then I don't have to stand in the queue. And
but now I'm going to ask you. Okay, but that's now we all have this device in our hand, a mobile phone, and it's a very powerful computer, and we have these chat applications in there. So I imagine, okay, we have WhatsApp, and you can call, and this digital human calls me. Okay, you're geolocation based. Welcome in the hospital. I'll guide you through the department where you need to be. So I know it has references as to beacons or something as to where it is. So now go to the first floor, take a right, take a left, and you're here. Hope all is well. Good luck.
Yeah.
yeah,
Wouldn't it be amazing?
it would.
Oh,
I think that's a great
smiling.
idea.
You think, no, but and you know what? You don't have to call into the reception that you're there, because basically the system already she detected, or he detected you're there. You're in the hospital, geolocation based, and you basically tells you, don't worry, you're third in line. The whole receptionist, you don't need them anymore. I think, but going back to how the future is going to look.
Yeah.
So it's adding a lot of, let's say, data sources to the conversation, and then all that's possible. Yeah.
But isn't that what's happening? That of course the digital humans, but data is the real game behind it.
Yeah, especially because if you would, the other one was digital human with computer vision and sentiment analysis. So here you already see that different data inputs is combined together to make the digital human as human-like and as enjoyable as possible in the conversation. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would assume that your digital assistant just picks up on where you are and say, let's another example. You go to the airport, right? You're at the airport. Geolocation, your digital assistant finds you at the airport, and it asks you the question, calls you up. It's are you traveling? Or actually, based on your email, it should know. but let's say it doesn't. Are you traveling, or are you picking someone up? Oh, I'm traveling. Oh, make sure you turn on your travel insurance.
Yeah, and gate D85 is a 10 minutes walk, and you should go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now it's time to go. Yeah.
And it probably based on the amount of power you need to lift your suitcase, it can tell you what it weighs.
Yeah, that's true.
With wearables, that is possible. I would assume if you have something on your wrist and it measures the muscle strength
Muscle
or something.
activity,
Muscle intensity.
Cool. Who knows? Who knows?
You don't need a weighing scale anymore. You just have your suitcase. Like, that would be amazing. Sorry, we're dreaming. So I think that this has a future. It needs a lot of work, though.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Yeah. And lots of research.
And lots of you love that. I think it needs a lot of students experimenting.
Also.
Also.
Yeah.
And businesses.
Well, that primarily. I think there's some businesses, but also governmental institutions. Look at the local municipality. If you need a car permit, parking permit, why can't I do it like that?
I think one of the problems is identification. Like that you are here in person, and that the one that is with what your identity says you are, that you're really that person. So I think they are struggling with that at the moment.
Well, if banks who have to fulfill all the rules and regulation on KYC and CDD and can identify you on a distance through cameras and IDs and some other transactional based thing, we have this government ID. It's called the digitize. So
that's true. So you would to combine it, yeah.
If you combine those things, that's also the weird thing. If you call a call center, right? For instance, from an energy company, of your energy company, they ask you your first name or your last name or the last or first four numbers of your bank account, or your date of birth, and then you can get all the information you need. Now I need to log in, and there's, they make it way more complicated. Makes no sense at all. Someone could call with that information and get all my data. They give it.
Yeah, true. But these governments are still a bit hesitant to adopt these, strategies and technologies. Yeah.
Yeah, but other governments are way ahead of us, like Estonia or.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Jim Rowe I don't know if you know him, Jim Rowe bot in the podcast. He explained that he got a ticket speeding in Georgia, not Georgia, America, but Georgia, Eastern Europe, and he says within 15 minutes. I got a text message on my phone that I could pay the ticket.
Really?
Oh, wow.
And he says it's just all connected. They, I think in Europe or Western Europe, we're lagging behind because we have all these legacy systems and they didn't have anything and just upped their game.
And maybe, well, I'm not sure if the words too much are the right words, but it's also about privacy. So we are also scared to integrate too much and expose too much to... Well, afraid if that's accepted by the public.
Have you ever had that you had your phone in place and then next thing you log into Facebook or something else or Google and you get an ad for something you just talked about? You're like, how the hell is this possible? And I didn't get an email on that subject or whatever. Privacy, I think it's important, but it's also partly an illusion.
True.
If you could give a tip or advice to people who want to start off with digital humans, because we know it's complicated, it's hard, and we should be honest about it. It's not easy. What would you advise a company that sort of has a chatbot now and is looking into this? Where do they start?
So first thing, it's important that they start. So that's the first thing I want to say. I think it's a matter of finding the right use case. So you can look at let's say high impact journeys where you really want to make a difference, or life events of your customers. Someone turns 18 or 21 or moves, gets married or whatever. So these important moments where you really, let's say, add value with a digital human, where it really makes impacts on your customers. And if you find that conversation, that flow, that's already in your chatbot, then you can connect the digital human to exactly that flow and start testing. So let her smile on certain moments, let her frown, let her nod and do whatever. See what the impact is on your customers. Do some research afterwards with your customers and grow from there. So it is, yes, it's hard, but on the other hand, we shouldn't make it too difficult. So the investment is quite limited. So you can start quite easily. And if you decide today, within 2 months, if you already have this chatbot, you're fully up and running and you can have your first tests in a public environment.
Cool. Lotte.
Well, one thing that I would to give to the listeners is what I already said: beware of the human design gap. So if you are opting for a digital human, do not only focus on the technology, but also on the conversational design, because it's multimodal, right? You have a textual input, you have
voice.
Voice, and you have text, and it all needs to.
And this one,
be combined,
the other one, actually registers your face as well.
So I think that's important. And I think I would say beware of the all or nothing mentality. So sometimes what you see in building use cases or business cases, they are doing running a test and they say, well, users are not that satisfied. but they should not only think, okay, digital human or not, but also think about the design. Like there's many choices to be made. We discussed so many already. So instead of saying, well, this is not going to work out, start experimenting.
So
what
A/B
would happen
testing.
if we would give it a more of a personality? What if we made changes to the disclosure? What if we would make it a bit less photorealistic? What would happen if we make it a bit more photorealistic? So you should keep in mind that there are design choices to be made, and that is not all or nothing. Yeah.
So basically, test, and it's like growth hacking.
Exactly.
Until you find the spot where you get the results you want.
Yeah.
And if you talk about the budgeting or time, how should you divide it? Because how much should you spend on the tech, and how much should you spend on the closing the gap you just mentioned?
I think it's more time than money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's more.
Or if you have to hire these people, that's also money. If they're external
okay,
people.
Okay, but then everything is money, and then there's no time. So
no, the money gives you time, but if let's say these people would be employed by the company, then there's the question: okay, how much do we spend on tech? These people are already on the payroll, and how do we divide our time between being busy with the tech, getting the stuff in there, and doing the design things and closing the gaps and researching and testing it?
Yeah, I think the answer is the same. I think the most important part is on the testing, on the research, and the tech is quite ready. So if you want to change this for a male avatar, it's a matter of changing a line of code, and then if you want to create a new avatar, that's something completely different. It's also possible, but that's
Different
an investment.
story.
But you can only do that if you've tested with the default avatars what works.
So basically, you're saying the answer is with the consumer.
And then there is something I would like to stress as well. Like look further than only what is being offered to you by these technology companies, because like I said, for example, if you're having a target group that is scoring high on autism spectrum, like you should not only think, which one of this collection of digital humans should I pick, but just think, are there better options? Are there things that I would really need for these people to engage effectively? What would I need in terms of a digital human? Maybe not something that looks photorealistic and human at all.
So for a digital human, it's the same story as for regular chatbots. Strategize until you know what you want and need, not only now, but in a couple of years' time, so that the tech you choose.
There are a lot of similarities. So let's say 6-7 years ago, we had the discussions with our customers. Oh, well, would they accept the chatbot? Would the chatbot provide the right answers? Will it work? And now it's the same, but then for the digital human. So we're going to the same cycle again, which is good. But so the same rules apply. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So it should be easier then, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you do enough research.
Yeah. Research is key.
Guys, I want to thank you a lot for being here. It was a joy.
Thank you for having us.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for having us. Yes.
We had a good laugh at her expense. I'm sorry that I didn't expect her to make a joke. If someone is looking for you guys, where can they find you? It's like, you're saying you're right here at the table.
So there's the queue now on screen.
No, well, we put your LinkedIn in the bio, but your company name or whatever.
Yeah, so the company name is Virtually Human.
Okay.
So you can find out my name, Guido Jongen, on LinkedIn as well. So it's quite easy.
And Lotte?
I'm working at the Rotterdam University of Applied Sciences, so they can find me over there.
Very good. So guys, thank you very much. And that's it for today.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you so much.